All right, good morning, everybody. How are we feeling? Awesome. All right, cool. So, who feels like they retained at least 60% of what I talked about yesterday towards the end of the day? Awesome. How did you guys feel about it? Good.
Mike,
Just
get
nodding,
that mic into the
just
little
nodding
closer.
heads. Yeah, I know. Listen, I don't like putting things in my mouth. All right?
Let it touch them nice, fluffy lips.
There's a first for everything. That's true. So, what were the biggest takeaways for some of you guys from either some of the feedback on the panel or on my actual presentation? You guys can just shoot, because if you guys don't start talking now, you're going to start falling asleep. Automation, what about it? Yep, Jesus, take the wheel. All right, who else? Come on, don't be shy, guys. I'm going to start pointing at people and say, you. Who wants to talk?
How long were you spending, years, trading all day versus when now you're kind of slimming down and I'm just trading this because this is my time?
So it was never all day, but I did trade unusual, foolish hours of the day, right? So I tried I'm going to wake up at 4 in the morning because that's what the billionaires do, right? And trade. And, there just wasn't enough. What were the 3 things that I said you need in the markets in order to exploit opportunities and make money? No. Range, liquidity, and the big one, the V word. Yes, exactly. So there just wasn't enough of that stuff at 4:30 in the morning Eastern time, right? Trying the 9 p.m. trades. And another thing is and you'll see this with ATR. Obviously, top right-hand corner, that's my toggle time frame chart. ATR is always at the bottom of that chart. However, we read ATR on the 5-minute chart only, the same way that you read cumulative delta on the 30-minute chart only. So I just very quickly learned that really that prime time is from the opening bell to the lunch bell. You guys notice how much volume and range fall off or taper off after noon on Friday? All the big bosses at Wall Street, right, and in Chicago, they're going to the Hamptons, they're going to the cigar lounges, strip clubs, the works, right? Like 12 o'clock, they make their money, they're done. Peter Tuchman, who of you guys follow him? The Einstein of Wall Street, Peter Tuchman, no? Yeah? He always leaves at noon on Friday, always, up or down. I like that, right? But the same could be said. If you've made your money first thing in the morning, right, why keep trading into the afternoon? There's stuff that you could do with your money. There's absolutely nothing you could do. You could just go sit out by the beach or whatnot. So it wasn't until I started really getting involved in other, my business ventures and other verticals that I'm just like, I can't, right? I got things that I want to do, things that I need to do. So yeah, like I said, I always try to be out before or by noon, okay? So good question. Anybody else? Questions or biggest takeaways, what you liked most from the presentation yesterday? All right, cool. Then we're going to get into it. So I do have to sit down. Can't stay up here because I'm going to go ahead and start running through the charts. You could see we are approaching big round psychological number, 5,700. Lots of bullish moves. Remember the sell-off we had yesterday? Who knows why? Not sell-off, but little flush. Who knows why that happened going into and immediately after the close? Which earnings? 2 A's, double A, Apple and Amazon, right? Think? Okay, cool. So yeah, but you could see that we had a lot of overnight movement and pre-market movement to the upside. Most of it was from the 8:30 number. What came out this morning at 8:30, guys? Okay, cool. All right, awesome. So we're going to go ahead and, number one, pick our levels out, right, because that's what I do first. And then we're going to see what are the best opportunities and what the bias is, all right? So look at that, perfect timing almost. Okay, so what was the first thing that I do before anything? How do we get that chart back up, Austin? Let me see, hold on. We're going to try this again.
I come save you, Poppy. Don't worry.
Thank you, puppy. I think I might have got it. There we go. Cool.
See, maybe I just got to stand up here for you.
I'm a strong, independent man, Austin.
Yes. 2025, strong, independent men.
All right, so what do we do first, guys? Nope. Yes, econ calendar, right? So we're going to take a look at that just because. So there you could see unemployment rate, non-farm payrolls, average earnings year over year, smaller movers. So what do we have coming up that we definitely have to be on the lookout for? 10 o'clock, U.S. factory orders, right? So that means that first 30 minutes of trade, I'm just going to spend that looking for levels, right? I like to see usually what the forecast and previous was. Wait, why is my mouse not working? Okay, there we go. So forecast is 4.5, previous was 0.6. All right, and what in the world? Okay, this is glitchy. Were any of you guys having this problem? No? All right. So now, as far as picking out the levels, so we start where and work our way down to what? What was that? One more time? Yep, so go all the way from the daily down to the minute. So compared to Trade of 8, this is a little tricky because I don't have all the tabs across the top. So what I use is usually this particular chart, which is my 1,000 tick. I jump to the daily, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at some stuff. So there's really nothing in here that I need to look towards. We can go to some much later times, possibly for some support zones, because you could see over here we spent most of this time significantly lower, right? We finally got this breakout above 5,500, and you could see the last few sessions, with the exception of yesterday, if it was not for the earnings, they were big ones, right? Amazon and Apple. So a lot of smaller boutique traders and some of the bigger institutional traders are making adjustments to their positions going into those earnings, right? So that's the only reason why we ended up having a red candle yesterday. It was very, very, very close to the end or a close when we actually settled or closed lower than we opened. You see how close it is, right? So that's why it's red. So to me, this is still very bullish, right? So there's going to be areas over here that we're going to be looking for support on the daily. But then again, if you feel like you have limited data, you can always go back to much older times or much older sessions and look for areas there. But we're going to go ahead and make this a little bit quicker than normal. So what I like to do is stretch this out, take a look at things and see what stands out here. All right. So for me, right off the bat, right around here, big settlement zone. What do I mean by that? Look, we got a close, an open and a close, and open, and then look what happened here. See this? Big flush. I think this is literally when we started having the really hot conversations around tariffs, okay? Yeah, definitely is. And where is it here? So you could also see we did find some pretty nasty support there as well, right? So we had this, and look, support here on March 7th, resistance this time around on March 12th, close on the 17th, right, and some resistance, close on the 19th, a little bit of support here, right, support here, open, close, and then a serious breakdown. We looked up to that level on some pretty aggressive trading before ultimately turning down and closing significantly lower, right, than where we opened and where we had traveled to. So this right off the bat, before looking at some volume profiles from some more recent sessions rather, this is automatically, I'm notating here on the side, this 730 to 740 zone, right? So make sure you're taking your notes because you'll forget the levels that were significant to your eyes, okay? And this is all technicals. None of this is fundamentals based, right? We pay attention to the fundamentals things like the news coming out at 10, right? Earnings yesterday, so on and so forth. You can try to remember, like when I look at charts, I see stories. Like I could see COVID, I could see 9/11, I could see tariffs, I can see elections, right? I can see someone's ear getting shot off. You can see a lot of those things in the markets if you obviously are paying attention to those things. You can always look back and be like, okay, yeah, that's when this happened. The markets always tell a story of what was going on at that time. So another thing to look at, we have this candle here where we ultimately had this big flush. So we have this close down at 670, which is also in alignment with this top on the 31st. So I'm talking about the 31st of March and the 1st of April. So I'm looking at this now, and then you look, we got settlement here, right? Resistance, settlement and open here. So this is an area of interest for me as well. That's down to, we'll call it 672. So that's something I'm going to be looking at to the downside. And then what are we looking at lower? Yeah, I like this here too, right? Look, close, support, 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 close. So we're looking at 648. So 648 to the downside is another level that I'm interested in. All right, I think that's enough for the daily chart. We'll flip this back to 1,000 tick. All right. So Renko. Sentiment, bullish or bearish? Bullish, right? So you could see lots of acceptance here in this range, right? Lots of sideways trading. But yeah, you got this low here, right? And then effectively higher lows, higher highs. We're above the moving average on the Renko. That's important. Ironically enough, is it a coincidence that the moving average here on the Renko at this point in time, 632 is where that moving average is. Look at the support here, support here, support, 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 right? A little bit of resistance here before breaking up, coming down, and then finally breaking above it. So that was 635. That's a little bit lower than the 648 that I'm looking at. So 635 is another one that I'm looking at. Now, can we zoom out on Renko where we could see areas above? Now it would be a little bit hard to see, so I'm not going to get things too messy here. Okay, on 1,000 tick, again, this is transactional. So there's a couple things I want to look at. Okay, one thing that stands out, we are farmers. Dun, 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 dun. We are 4.5 minutes into the open, okay? So we're going to have an uptick, obviously, in volume and transactions. So that means that more candles have been forming over the last 4 minutes, right? Look, we have the open right here at 9:30, and already I've put in probably close to a dozen candles. There's 1,000 transactions for every single one of these bars or candles. So one thing that stands out to me, especially when you consider that we had, oh, wait, never mind. Yes, time frames change. Okay, here we go. So there's the close, right? There's the closing bell. All of this here was earnings, right? This flush here was earnings, okay? And then it wasn't until, let's see, we broke over this 1,000 tick moving average, came down, found support, retested it again, found support, and then news drove us higher. Now this is sitting at, ooh, the dreaded 666 number on the Renko chart. So that to me is also interesting because it's in alignment with where we found some resistance here on this overnight and pre-market run-up. All right, so I'll just notate that in my head. I don't really find that too important. All right, so now we start on the hourly. Oh, well, would you look at that? We ran straight up on the news to yesterday's upper level. So while you guys were here doing the trading session, I was back there. I was picking out my levels for the day, obviously. So again, the dots are my levels, and the boxes are my extended areas of interest. I'm going to go ahead and just zoom in on this just so we can kind of see what happened here, right? So, yeah, 9 a.m., right? Already got a level picked out down here. So we didn't get down there on the open, right? We had a really, really, really strong move to the upside, which we gave a lot of that back going into lunch, okay? So kind of wasted effort from the bulls there. And then we did find some support, pretty much where we were at going into the open. But look at where at the 3 p.m. candle, that 1 hour candle, look at how we closed that candle effectively at my lower level, right? Also, we bottomed out pretty much at my lower level. It wasn't until, again, this earnings preparation that we got this additional push down where effectively this did fail. We did not quite get down to my extended area of interest. And I think the reason why that was, the rest of the participants were gone, right? The vast majority of people were clocked out right at 4 p.m. Eastern, right? So there's very, very, very few stragglers, probably a lot of algorithms that are still trading, you know, these earnings headlines and everything hitting the wire. So I drove us down here, but what's important is we very, very quickly in the overnight and pre-market got back into the initial, not the initial balance, the volume profile or the session range for yesterday. Now what's interesting though is that we've broken out of it on news this morning and we are now already trying to attempt to break back into yesterday's session. So we're gonna get really deep into the profile for yesterday to see if there's any key areas that we're gonna be looking at. But one thing I wanna see.
Real quick, Isaac.
Yes, sir.
What is your approach on the NFP numbers? Does that impact the way you're doing this analysis?
Yeah, so if I know that there's a big mover, I will immediately start looking for areas of interest that are a little bit further, right? So that's why like I have a set of numbers here. So like I think that 70-30 to 70-40 range to the upside, depending on what the result is on that 10 o'clock number, I think it's very realistic. It's highly probable to get up to those levels today based on that. Right.
Real quick, tap in. Anybody in a trade? Hands up. Come on, you can own up to it. I'm short. Anybody else in a trade? Tanner? Joey? Nothing? Okay, keep going.
Has anybody exited a trade already? Up or down? Down. Good
There
stuff.
is someone in the room up 60 bands already this morning.
60 bands.
60 bands.
Damn, I wish it was me.
From here, Isaac, so now you kind of gave us a really good idea of what you like look at before. Based on right now where we're at on time, when will you look to take that first trade?
Oh, not until after 10.
Oh, so we're waiting.
Yeah, for
Beautiful.
sure. Well, we're
So-
not waiting. We're working.
Working. We're setting the
right?
stage.
Yeah, we're building out the infrastructure for the rest of the day. Right?
Beautiful.
Weak foundation, right? It all falls apart.
Facts.
So, all right, this is what I wanted to look at. So we did not get down to my extended area of interest, which I know exactly why I was looking at it. I was looking at the point of control from the 29th all the way up through the value high and the session high from the 29th. It was a very, very thin distance as far as tickage goes between this POC and this session high. You could see that at the time that was my upper level for that day, which was excellent. And then we ended up trading basically down to the upper level from the 29th and from the 28th. So that's a good thing. We didn't get quite down to my extended area of interest. If it was not for earnings, I don't think we would have exceeded my lower level, right? But I'm not going to say it. I was going to say something crazy. Intrusive thoughts. So yeah, we did end up ultimately finding support where we found resistance on the 29th and the 28th. So I like that, and that's all the way down at 600. So it's about 90 points away from where we're currently trading. I think that's a stretch. I think what we're going to have to do is find areas of significance because, again, look, I have no data to match up with in this area from previous sessions. I'd have to go pretty far back. Since we're still on the hourly, I'm going to. All right, perfect. See, now we're... Okay, so look, we have a point of control from April 2nd, right? So that's a line in the sand at 8.5, right? 6.85. If that falls apart with the number at 10, then I think we see a pretty significant pullback going into the afternoon. And then, of course, we have the value high and the value low almost in alignment with one another down at 670 something, which ironically enough, that is already one of the levels on my notes, okay? We got a POC down to, again, close to that dreaded 666, so maybe I am going to, Austin said something about the devil earlier. I'm gonna put a little asterisk here.
It's Friday night. We dancing with the devil.
For 666. Okay, yeah, I think we don't really need anything else on that. So next thing we do is we go down to the 30. This is an important time frame to look at. Why do you guys think? Especially on Project X compared to Tradeovate or NinjaTrader. So the the volume profile tool in Project X unfortunately adjusts its display based on what time frame chart you're on, and you should only be looking at volume profile, market profile on the 30-minute chart, right? Yes, come on guys, keep me awake here. I haven't had a sip of my coffee yet. All right, so 9:30 to 1600 hours, okay? That's how you draw out your volume profile. Real quick, I'm gonna just open this up so that you guys can see my settings, right? Ticks per row, right? 1, up, down, 70%, okay? Gaussian theory, bell curve, so on and so forth. There's a reason for the 70%. Again, make sure you check out my top 1 futures market profile and volume profile class. But, okay, so look, interesting. You could see that value low was very, very close to my lower level for yesterday. We're going to go ahead and blow this up a little bit. Yes, always. So, all right. 652-ish point of control. You could see it acted as resistance pre-market. Look, from basically 5:30 to 7 a.m., we weren't able to break above point of control from yesterday's session. The only reason why we did, fundamentals, news, numbers, right? Lightning bolt shot us up, and you could see that over the last like 5 minutes or so, we're just really trying to figure out, do we want to be above or below? We're not fighting with session high from yesterday. Why not? Like, why are we not fighting with session high? Why are we putting up a bigger fight with where I was eyeballing pre-market yesterday? Okay. So again, that line in the sand. So the first order of business for bears today is what? Anybody want to take a guess? What's like the first thing bears need to accomplish and see so that they kind of just like rally, like, yeah, we got this. We're gonna drive it lower. What's the first thing that they got to get done? Anybody want to take a guess? Break of yesterday's session high. Because right now we are close. Good guess, though. Right now we are outside of yesterday's session. So the first thing that they're going to want to do is get back inside of yesterday's session range. And then what's objective number 2? That's like the final objective, right? We're going to try to get back inside of value, right? Because value, what is value in volume profile or market profile? What is value? I like that. Sharp. So even though you're down, you're the one that's down on your trade today, right? Oh, you're up. All right, good stuff. I was going to say, I don't care what anybody says about you. You're a good guy. Okay, so yes, first order of business. For me, right, I want to see us break underneath from a bearish perspective, which I'm not, right? The charts are bullish, right? So I'm, I'm leaning more towards the bull side. It really just depends on this number coming out in 15 minutes, okay? It's going to be clearing this upper level from yesterday. Then objective 2 is getting back inside the session. I think that 74, which again, it's that 72, 74, I have a star here. I think that's going to be a problematic level. It was yesterday. It was in the overnight, right? This is right at midnight, right? We found resistance here. Pretty deep pullback, right? But again, the news drove us up. We even had a little bit of resistance around there as well at 2100 hours, right? You could see point of control did act as support here and here, okay? We had a little breakout, some playing around in the value low area for yesterday. So the bears are going to be targeting value high, right, and then point of control. And I think that this is probably, okay, hold on, we're going to look at something else here. Yeah, so this volume spike, right? We don't have any gaps in this profile, by the way, right? It's pretty solid, right? Lots of acceptance here, I think, and that's confirmed, right, in that earnings brought us lower, but then after hours, we came right back up into the value area for yesterday, and even though we dabbled above it, we very quickly returned back inside of value, right? If we were going to go ahead and draw this out, look, it's the majority of the value area from yesterday, right? So bears are going to want to do that. But the thing is, I don't think that I've been wanting to be over 5,500 for several weeks now. And it's just been really, really hard to get there. However, you can see that when we finally got it done, we got it done with some strength, right? Look, we were just consolidated here. And then finally at the close here, right? And then clearly we had no interest in trading back down in these levels. So we broke out with strength. Now we just got to see if we can continue that momentum to the upside. And you could see, look, going into this number in 15 minutes, we're already trying to peel back into yesterday's session high. But anyway, I was going to say we don't have any gaps in the profile for yesterday, but we do have some spikes, not anomalies, but other high interest areas above and below point of control that aren't point of control. So I'm liking, especially if, let's see, hold on. Yeah, and you could see we ended up having some pretty strong support there going into the close, so that last hour of trade. So yeah, I'm liking this like 648. Oh, look at that, 648. I put a star there because it's something that I notated on the daily chart that now I'm getting Confluence, right? Things that kind of support what I was seeing, but in a different way from volume profile now. So 648, 672, those are definitely going to be target areas to the downside for me. And then, yeah, that's 730 to 740. So to be honest, I don't even really need to look at the other time frames. I'm pretty set on my levels just on what I've picked up already, but I'm still going to go ahead and run through it. I put little stars here. That way I know this is what I'm liking. So unless I look at something that really deters me from those levels on the next things that I'm going to look at, this is probably going to be it, right? We may or may not make some adjustments. So simple moving average on the 30-minute, by the way, also is where, guys, is a coincidence that the simple moving average has floated up directly into my extended area of interest to the downside. So if something fundamentally crazy hit the wire, right, Trump tweets something, and there's a massive sell-off, right, I think that this would be a very, very, very good zone to probably exit shorts or potentially look at getting into aggressive longs. All right, so 15-minute moving average is down at 625. That is not one of the levels that I have on here. Oh, but would you just look at that? Look at where the simple moving average on the 15-minute chart has floated up to, directly to my lower level from yesterday. It's not coincidence. And then we're going to go ahead and look at the 5-minute. And we have, would you look at that? 648 is the level that I have written down here. And we have the simple moving average it actually just floated up higher, but it's situated right around that 48, 49, 50 zone. So that's not giving me information that makes me feel less confident about my levels. That's actually making me feel better about the levels.
Questions, real quick, guys.
Yes, sir.
You're going fast. Questions, everybody. Hand up if you got a question. Yes.
Anybody here watch SpongeBob? Forever, yeah, as long as we can. That's why when I took the leap of faith to jump over to top 1 futures, I lost all of my levels, and I should have paid a peasant to put them all on my terminal for me. Yeah, because that's really annoying, losing that data. You should try to keep annotations of your levels, like indefinitely, like as long as you can. All right. So, anybody else? Questions? Yes.
Yeah. He said, why are you using bar charts?
Yes, open, high, low, close, OHLC bars, right? I think for me, right, I'm a very, very visual person. To me, this is cleaner. By eliminating the body of the candle, right, because that's happening, whatever the increment is, right, like a 5 minutes worth of time, 1 minute worth of time, 1,000 transactions, that's irrelevant. What I care is that candle higher or lower, right, when it closes relative to its open? And then just what are the distances, right? Where did it tap out, and right, where did it, find its leg? That's important, but everything that happened in between doesn't matter. I think everything that happens within a session is important because that's telling a story. The same could be said about the individual candles, but I don't really think so. Not when you're trading intermediate time frames, right? If you're scalping, like a high-frequency trading or something, maybe. But if you're looking for bigger moves, 10 points plus, those things don't really matter. That's why the majority of my analysis is on larger time frames, but then my execution is pretty much on my smallest time frames, 1,000 tick or 1 minute.
Does anyone want to try VAR charts after seeing this? Is anyone going to maybe give it an attempt? I feel like Brian Shannon uses bar charts. Yeah. It's clean.
It's a lot cleaner. It's easier on the eyes. And again, if you eliminated color and you just made like your bars all white or gray or something, believe it or not, it gets even easier.
Can we pause? This has been perfect.
Let's pause.
Let's pass to Joey. I'd love to see this overlaid on how Joey sees VWAP. So if we could pass the stick to Joey or Tanner.
2 more minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, so 2 more minutes real quick. All right, so what we're going to do here is all right, so upper level. I was looking at 730 to 740 to the upside. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to go ahead and let's just meet in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and set my level. And I usually try to put it around like 830. So I'm going to put it right in the middle, right? 735, in between 740 and 730. To the downside, I was looking at 648.
Mark those levels.
Look at that, just under. We'll put it right here.
Now, what's going to be really cool in a second is you're going to see how Isaac takes these prices and how Tanner, and Joey, and I, a little bit more VWAP focused, look at it, and you're going to see how it overlays, just like we did yesterday.
And then, so yesterday's lower level, a few points lower, this consolidation here. So I would say 615 to 620 is going to be our extended area of interest to the downside if we have failure. All right? So 615.
Failure Friday.
No. Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday.
Yeah, so.
Is anyone in a trade yet? Yes? Long, short? Nice. Did you short the VWAP mid-range? Anybody else take a VWAP short mid-range? Kind of following Isaac's analysis, but with VWAP? Yeah? Same?
I'm looking to get long off VWAP right now.
I did. I'm up 1,500.
You like longs at VWAP? We do got value low here. Look, so the bears have already seen we're about 7 minutes into that number, right? So people are preparing for that number to drop. They're bailing on their current positions because they don't want to be caught in the crosshairs. And then the idiots have no idea that something's even coming out at 10 o'clock.
Yeah. So if you were short beforehand, sometimes it's valuable to get out of the trade and then be able to reposition yourself after the news rather than just hope the news carries in your direction.
Yep.
Hope is dope.
Yep, and we traded straight down to what, guys? Straight down to value area high from prior day. Thank you. Good job.
Yep. Very nice.
Star for you. All right. So
yeah, I was gonna say let's get Joey on here real quick just before this news comes
Yep.
in. I want to show the guys some VWAP.
cool. All right. Well, those are the levels, guys. Extended area of interest.
We're
down
gonna come
here,
back. We're gonna
lower
put
level,
Isaac
upper
back
level.
on in a second. I want to just spread the love. Great job.
Cool.
Let's
Who
pass that.
remembers? Can I take the station?
Yeah, get the station.
Who remembers the 3 questions that I said I asked myself every single day?
That's not fair, bro. She knows.
That is not fair.
That's not fair, Krista.
That's
Cheater.
Yeah,
No, it's
that's
good.
not fair. She's a cheater. It's okay. Yes. Where's the market been? Where's it trying to go? How good of a job is it doing? Right? Now, I ask myself that every day, all day long. Right? It just gives me total clarity on the markets, what I'm looking for, areas of interest that I like, levels. I trade VWAP. I'm not a big VWAP guy, but I do use it for reference on good price points to find maybe a support or a big area of resistance. A lot of times I see price like to bounce off VWAP, and so I'll have it on there for reference. And if we do end up holding it or finding support there, I'll use that as a guide to take long. But my areas, and don't let this all these colors get kind of confusing. I like to look at different sessions, like I mentioned yesterday, Asia highs, Asia lows, London's, all that good stuff. So don't let that these colors confuse you. That's just marking out those levels. But without going too much into my presentation later, I mainly trade initial balance as well as these London levels. But I'll let Tanner talk about VWAP. I think you use VWAP a lot. I'll let Tanner go more in detail about VWAP. But for me personally, I like to use it as a reference point because I see price like to navigate it too. You all heard the saying, all roads lead to VWAP, right? I like to use it as a reference point just for whether I want to take a long or short based off price and what price is doing in that moment.
Initial balance, everybody. Does anyone know what it is? Everybody aware of it? Is anyone not aware of what the initial...
Raise your hand if you know what initial balance is, just so I get an idea. Okay,
All right,
majority.
good.
Majority.
It is
All
the
right.
first hour of trading, 9:30 to 10:30. So Joey's really going to take over once we get to that point where the initial balance is set. You can combine it with some crazy stats that say sometimes the initial balance is only broken to the high or the low, meaning it only breaks either side, about 70% of the time. So often, Joey's going to talk to us about these trades where we'll get the break and then we trade back out that way because it has a strong edge. The initial balance trade is really smart, in my opinion, because you avoid a lot of the news that happens and the shaking and the noise that happens between 9:30, even 8:30 like today, and 10:30. That first 2 hours is where everybody wants the sauce, but in reality, you can come in, you'll see you get much cleaner trades sometimes after 10:30. And then go into the tracking. You can just quit that. Yep. Then you go into the tracking of it, and you'll start to see what time of day you perform better or worse. And some of us, I know we've talked about it, perform better in the afternoons. I think there's a reason for that. Less news, less noise, less people speculating at market open. Go ahead, Tanner.
Okay, so I did get long on this spike.
Hold
through
on,
VWAP.
you're red first. Why are you
Yeah,
red?
I was red. So I did take an attempt initially because I had a key level at 41,310. I have it on my other charts over here, so it's kind of hard to see.
This is fine.
But I tried that initial stab because I wanted to see if we're going to hold it at the open and kind of just go. It didn't. And so now we got the spike through, kind of the manipulation. And what I do like on this, I want to pull this up so you guys can see it somehow.
And what's that blue line there, Tanner?
The blue line's VWAP.
From where?
From it's just the extended hours.
Got it. So from
it's
the 6
24
o'clock
hour,
last
yeah.
night. Yeah.
So basically, this is like my bread and butter setup right here. I just don't want to see this low break. So I'm willing to let this play out. I know we have news coming up, so it is going to be risky holding it into news.
Risk it.
But I'm down to risk it for the
Hold
biscuit,
it.
to be honest. So I don't like how we're starting to pull back here, but I just don't really want to overmanage it. So sometimes I will like go in between time frames like this. Like, see, this looks pretty bearish, but as long as we don't break the low, it's probably going to break it right.
Go
in
ahead,
front of
Randy, what were you
everyone.
gonna say?
But whatever. Like, this is my setup. So it's like we get a spike down into it, especially on a 5-minute chart. I really like it. It's like spike down into it, pumps back up and holds. Obviously, a better confirmation would be a break over this bar high. I'm really big on like bar by bar. So when you take it bar by bar and kind of just let it do its thing, I don't want to overthink it. I don't want to overmanage it. I do look for signals and stuff like that. Like, this obviously is looking really bearish, but I'm just not going to touch it.
You got a
because
question
This
over here,
could
too.
hold like the lows. Yes. Yeah. Good question. So flipping between them really comes down to the daily chart setup for me. So in like, opposite to what Austin actually said yesterday, I think the daily chart's the most important thing. I look at it every single day, and I pick what daily chart setup looks the best based on that. So my whole reasoning for this, I do want to share this if I can.
Don't all three indices kind of look the same, though?
They look similar, but you can find little things here and there. So
Okay.
you guys see this? Okay, so this is my normal grid where I'm looking at everything. I look at SPY, ES, NQ, QQQ, YM, DIA, RTY, and usually I have IWM here. But what I really like today is I want to show you guys this. And I apologize for all my lines. So this is DIA, and I found this on the daily chart here where we are gapping above prior day high, and we have this big gap. And as a rule of thumb, charts love to backfill gaps. Like they eventually will fill most gaps, not always, but a lot of times.
I hate that, bro.
So, but
I hate that. That is a 4X thing.
it works.
All gaps fill. Yeah, that gap might
yeah.
fill in 3 years, and you're trying to trade it through every day, though.
For sure, yeah. Well, that's why it depends location wise. So I'm sifting through these charts and I'm going, okay, I pretty much actually only look at YM or NQ now. I just don't really trade ES. Like I just noticed it. I just don't. So I look at this first and I go, okay, like, oh, I like this setup. I like how we're in the gap here. If we end up like holding the gap, then I want to look for longs for it to continue to fill. So that was kind of my idea this morning where I was like, okay, we're gapping above prior day high. We're in this gap. If we can pull back a little bit, maybe pull back into VWAP and hold that, we can maybe go higher. So that's kind of like what I was looking for here.
Now, Tanner, what's cool about this is when will you flip the bias away from that and be like, okay, some of the guys are making money short. We're starting to take out, maybe, is it levels? Is it a time of day? When will you be like, I'm going to give up on that gap fill for the day and do something else?
Probably after the news or once I have confirmation that the gap is really just like failing. So actually here we can see on, let's pull this up. So numbers coming up. Yeah, this is make or break for me pretty much.
Pull it back up.
No, where'd it go?
There it is. Yep.
So let's see. So if this ends up holding, this is a good.
Can someone give me the number on Financial Juice?
If this ends up holding, this is also a good reason why I just don't like to move my stop, because you see we traded all the way down. Remember literally just a few minutes ago, I was like, oh, this looks like it's about to stop me on this big bearish bar. But look what happens. Comes down, makes a higher low, and now we're potentially holding. This could still fail and come all the way back down and stop me, but I don't really care because I'm just following my strategy. So what I did like about this as well is on DIA on the 5-minute here is I love multiple confluence zones. So we had prior day high, which is this line right here, and we had that initial spike down into it, right? And we overshot. I'm really big on overshoots. Overshoots either to the downside, to the upside. They're basically just liquidity grabs, and they usually happen in areas where everyone is like, oh, here we go, let's continue this move. But then all of a sudden you get some spike, and it actually ends up holding. So I like how this is spiking below prior day high, and Confluence-wise, it was spiking into VWAP here. So I was like, you know what? This is good for me to take the stab, put my stop at the low, attempt it, see if it works. It might not, it might, but it's for me, system-wise, I'm like, this is a good trade. I don't care if it works or not. This is a great trade setup. I have multiple confluences. I have multiple areas where I'm like, it's like telling me you need to attempt this because I have multiple areas where it's like, take it, take it. So now, especially with YM, this is also another important thing. The characteristics of what asset you're trading, they all have different personalities. NQ is like a bull on steroids, which is like why I love it. But YM is kind of boomer and slow. So it's like, but I understand that going into it. So I'm not going to overmanage it. I'm not going to overthink it. Like I'm just going to let it do its thing. Because I've seen this with YM so many times where I'm like, all right, just let the damn thing trade. Let's just see what happens. And it's kind of slow and boring, but again, it's just about the setup, and I just know I need to give it time and let it do its thing.
Which means we all sit here.
Yeah, we all just sit here. It's kind of boring.
It is boring. That's
yeah.
the point.
But
So
target-wise, so I have 10 contracts right now. I'm looking for that gap fill. I am looking for a much bigger move. So, and I feel like I'm in the driver's seat now. Like it's looking solid. We just broke the prior bar high.
sorry, Tanner. Wait, what's the news, everybody? Can someone get the number? Say it again. Positive or negative? So it missed a little bit. Okay. So even on a miss on the news, you're not even looking at that. You don't care. You're just looking at color charts.
Bro, I don't look at the.
Interesting.
I don't give a fuck.
So
about the
different,
numbers.
right? Like it's
Like-
it's funny,
like,
but it is very. It's important for you guys to see something here. Tanner's getting payouts. I'm getting payouts. I don't give a fuck about the daily time frame. They disagree with me. We can both make money. Doesn't matter. There is no right. You see what I'm saying? That's part of why I
That's
wanted
the beauty, is there's a million ways to skin the cat, and there's not one size fits all. And I tell everyone that too, that I mentor specifically, because everyone comes to me with all these different strategies and stuff like that, and I'm like, you don't have to do one certain thing. You just need to figure out what makes sense to you, where your setup is, and then take it from there. So like now, I'm starting to build confidence and conviction in this play as it's starting to play out more. So I had that failed attempt to go lower. If we go to like the nitty gritty here, let's go to the 30-second chart, which I do not recommend, but like, you know, we're basically making lower highs or higher lows. I always get that mixed up. But basically, we're failing to go lower here, which is good. I'm like, cool. So now let's go back to, you know, the bigger time frames. Here's a 15-minute chart. And again, just like retesting that prior day high structure area, holding VWAP. It's looking pretty solid to me. So I'm just going to let it trade, do its thing. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm not going to overmanage it.
Is anyone in this trade with him? Already got out? He's long, yes.
I'm long, yeah.
Nice.
So target-wise, because now let's kind of go into targets. Like I said, I am looking for that bigger picture gap fill, but to be safe and smart, my level was 41,310. I'll probably want to cover some here at 41,300s. So I'll take off half at 41,300s, and then I'll probably just leave the rest to potentially go, if it does, right? And see, now we're kind of getting this projection, like this could still end up failing. It's not really doing...
You want to bet that $20 again that this stops you out?
It might. It totally might. It looks like it's about to.
I'll take my money back.
But
Can we
that's-
talk real quick? Yeah.
How do you know, Tanner, like how do you determine when you use the electronic hours daily versus the New York daily? Or like the regular trading hours?
VWAP? Yeah. So good. I actually do look at both. This is a great time for the grid. So I like to look at both because they both are in different locations. So let's look, like right here, let's look at these Qs in the corner, right? Look at QQQ VWAP. No closes below number one. We did get some spike throughs, but then NQ VWAP is way down here. So we didn't even get the full test of it. SPY, another great example. Look at this. ES pins into ES VWAP. We break down SPY VWAP. So what I like to look at this is actually like my favorite part of this strategy is when we break one, the next one below has to hold as support. Otherwise, we potentially are going to flip completely.
This is big, everybody. If you're
This
a
is
VWAP
big,
person,
yeah.
this is like Brian Shannon talked about this on my podcast. Tanner talked about it before. This is super important.
Yeah. So basically, I want to see the next area of support hold for that VWAP, and if we just slice through and go, then the whole setup's going to be invalidated. But I've seen this happen so many times where you get this VWAP sandwich where you're in between both, but you need to look at the next one above or below, depending on what direction we're going, to either be support or resistance. And you'll see this over and over and over and over. So depending on the strength overall, this is the discretionary nature of it, right? We're still discretionary based traders. So like I'm still watching it when it comes to, that's why I took that kind of, the initial stop that I did, because actually my first play that I took here was right here. I got long of DIA VWAP. It ended up coming through and stopping me out. And so I was like, okay, let's wait for the next one. Not a big deal. You know, took my loss, moving on. And then now, again, I'm just letting it trade, do its thing. I'm not overthinking it. I'm just letting the thing
Tanner, real quick.
trade.
You said, because I'm going to push you, because that's, I think, where we get some good knowledge from. We're in a disagreement about the daily time frame. And then I say to you, Tanner, they all kind of look the same, so why does it matter? What are the intricacies that you're looking at to spot differences?
Honestly, just what's better on my eyes. Meaning like where are we within specific, because there's some daily bars that don't all look the same. And I think that's why I do like looking in between Qs and like the index itself and the futures product, because you could see we had that gap on DIA. There's no gap on, unless you would have, I guess, you know, after hours off for whatever reason.
Right, you turn the after, you'll see it.
Yeah, it's like there is no gap on those type of charts. So I see that and I go, okay, that's a bigger picture time frame setup that my eyes look.
I think it's
comfortable with.
because you're biased to gaps. And I don't care about gaps, so I think that is a difference too, as we're talking about
Could
it.
be.
Yeah,
But I know that gaps get filled
often. Yes.
Not always.
Not, and,
but
I mean,
often.
I've seen gaps that have taken months, quarters to go fill. You know, so it's years. So it's very
for
dependent.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
VWAP people, how are you guys seeing the market this morning? Are we up? Anyone up over $1,000? Anyone down over $1,000? But everyone's in trade. So what are we trading? A couple $100? How much you make? Good. Anybody over 550? Okay. Micros? Micros? Okay. Want to throw your Project X back up?
Yeah.
Okay. So holding VWAP.
So,
Buyers
yeah,
are making a
it's
stand.
doing its thing.
Yep.
But it's unfortunately it's one of those you gotta wait.
This is where now on a Friday I start to feel like the NFP came in. This number's now in. What time are we at? Almost 10 o'clock?
Yeah, it's 10.
Yeah, so now we're already getting to the point of the day where I'm like, is this going to be super choppy? Joey's not. What do you think of Joey?
Yeah, I like to stay out of. I'm actually in a long right now, but I like to typically stay out of news, especially NFP days. Let me ask you this: how many of you don't like trading on Fridays? Oh yeah. How many of you still trade on Fridays? It's normal. It's completely normal. We're all degens here. I find my worst days are Fridays, and I typically like to stay out of it because none of us like to go into the weekend on a massive red day, right? It will run your weekend, and so I generally just try to stay out of it. I am in a small long right now. This will probably be, unless I get a good like initial balance trade later, I might take it. But generally, I have seen NFP days after the news event come out be choppy the rest of the day, right? And so generally, I usually don't find very good setups. But like Austin said, like I'm getting to the point of the day where it's like, do I really want to continue watching?
Because it's a Friday.
It's a Friday.
Yeah.
I want to go enjoy my day.
Looks good,
you know?
Tanner.
Yeah, this looks solid.
So both of you.
And the more time you give it to see, this is also the hard part is when we are spiking down into VWAP, like initially, you feel like you're going to be wrong, and that's why I will take a few haircuts here and there. So I remember on this bar, I was like in the moment when I was talking to you guys, I was like, oh, I'm fucked. This is going to.
We saw your butthole tighten
Yeah,
up.
I was like, oh, that's
We
it.
saw
But I also know I'm not going to overmanage it. I'm not going to overthink it. My stop is in a logical area where like that should be the low based on the strategy. So I'm just going to let it trade. Because one thing we often overlook, especially as traders, as we keep developing, is the basics. Higher lows, lower highs, market structure, right? We always overlook the basics as we get more advanced because we think we're some crazy guru or something personally and we know everything. But then someone you talk to that's really new to trading is like, oh yeah, we just held prior day high and I just went long because of that. And you're like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
yeah, that's right.
Real
So-
quick, check in. Thoughts, questions, anything from any of the boys so far that's like really sticking out to you that's maybe different than something you were doing? Something you're going to change in your approach this morning going forward? Yeah. So where's that confidence to leave the stop and know where to put it? Where do you think that confidence comes from? Experience, time, but what else do you think? Yes, what kind of data? Which you do through chart study, chart markups. That's what Tanner's like, I think you call it chart markups. Sounded like a boomer when you said that. But yes.
Hey, it's your term.
It's my term, so I'm the boomer. I think like he knows his stop should be at that pin because he's not only experienced it and been in it so many times, he's done, like Krista said, the data collection every day. Where was the money today? Where was the trade of the day, like Thomas said? Even if you were not in that trade, where was the money? Tanner starts seeing these VWAP bounces, and he's like, I think that could be in there, and I think I could put my stop there. Okay, well, I saw that again yesterday, and then I saw it again today, and now it's like, okay, now I'm starting to see something. You could take it as far as you want. You could do crazy markups and build a whole book, print it out, laminate it, show it to your kids, or just save them in your TradeZella, and that's probably enough. Yeah. But if you put the stop there, couldn't you get pinned out and then it continues if it just holds that VWAP? Right. Then it's done. You'd have to study that. Chart markup that, study that, data collect on that, and decide as these trades develop, should I be managing them differently? Would you guys say anything different to that? Damn, Tanner.
Yeah, this is, you guys know I love getting edged on film.
Dude, I knew that was what you were going to say as soon as I saw that. Do you guys have any response to his question? You don't do like that.
So in a scenario like this, I probably would want to move my stop to probably the low of this bar. So I know you're really aggressive with trailing, Isaac, but like for me overall with this strategy, I just need to let it work and just do its thing.
I
I'm also
could-
not risking tons, so I'm willing to let it do that.
But could we say, just to play the other side of the coin, Tanner, you lock your stop at 41,187, okay?
Yeah,
You get stopped, you lose nothing,
yeah,
and you could get back in.
for sure. You're
Okay.
right. You're right.
But if you do that over the course of a year, instead of just closing the trade right now, like just take your $400 right now. I want to know, and this is what no one has an answer to. I want to know how much money do you leave on the table by taking a break even on some of them versus just close it now. Take the 400, walk away. If it comes back down, take another trade. If it goes higher, take another trade. You can add trades to the playbook.
True.
So you can still take advantage rather than donuts. Peter Brandt, our favorite boomer, has two terms I do like. Popcorn trades and donut trades. My guys know what that is, but a popcorn trade is a trade like this that would go into profit and come down and actually be red. If he gets full stop, that's popcorn. Popped and dropped. A donut, I kind of invented, is if he locks his stop, he goes into profit, doesn't take any off, and he gets stopped for zero. He gets a break even. It's a donut. If you cut the popcorn and the donuts, how do we look? Right? That's like kind of the way to think about it. It's corny, but it's true.
Yeah, definitely where we are right now. I'd say this is like probably the hardest part still. Is
What would you guys do? Would you take it? Right now, would you close it? Or what would you do? Speak up. Take 5. You're shaking your head no. Who's in the back screaming? Who's that good-looking guy with a new haircut?
louder,
Let's go.
Louder.
Anthony wants you to hold it. Can we go a 2-minute time frame, buddy?
Yeah.
Anybody else? Who would close it? Who would take it? Come on. Keep it. Keep it. Lawrence says keep it. We're about to
Watch
get
me
tapped.
edged. Watch me get edged.
No, don't say that. So let me just say one thing. On this, just because I'm a big Brian Shannon fan, like he's literally one of the only day traders that's made a career over 40 years doing it every day.
Dude, look at this. This is textbook. Let's go.
Good job, Tanner.
So now, for sure, 1,000%, I'm gonna move it to break even. And
So-
I thought about that earlier. I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna send this."
I
dude.
think you might like what I'm going to say, Isaac. One of my favorite the only stop trail strategy that I do, I would have taken, if it was me, I would have taken 8 out of 10 off and kept 2. And I would have 2 at the pin low of that 2-minute bar. Brian Shannon does 2-minute low trails. It's been way more profitable for me. Instead of taking the full 290 down to 0, I'm taking 290 down to 210. And I still walk out of here with 210. That difference of $200, even if I trade the same size for the rest of the year, think of the math of that. How many trades do I have to take to make an extra 1,000? 5. An extra 50. You see what I'm saying? And it can compound very quickly. So 2-minute pin lows, if you want to make a note, I would say is one of my favorite trailing strategies. Is that similar to you, Isaac, in a way? Because yours is just number-based, but if we're moving in a typical day, 10 points, 20 points like today is a typical day, you're probably going to line up with very similar trails, right? Because you're going to do something at 4, you're going to do something at 7, right? So Tanner, this is YM, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah, this
It's
is
on
why-
ES, right? So we would be looking at it on ES.
Yeah.
So I think our trails would line up similar sometimes.
Also, if you guys notice, I'm always sifting through all the time frames because it's so easy to get caught up in like these smaller time frames. So
Go ahead,
that's one
Anthony.
thing I was like, I'm always kind of like cruising through all the time frames, looking at them because
Yeah, it
like
looks
look at
good.
this, look at this hourly. Like if
Looks
this
great.
closes up here, this looks fucking
great.
awesome. It looks like it's just gonna keep going.
But what would suck, so that's where it's like the trail comes in. If it closes up here, do you bring this stop up? Like, would you want to be in a red hourly bar all the way back down, bro?
No, definitely not.
So
So
when-
as we kind of get higher here, I'm debating. So okay, so this is actually something that I still struggle with too, is easy money versus greedy money. The easy money here is as we come into the top of the structure high is to cut it. That is the easy money for sure. And the even safer, easier money was kind of when I took some off there, like just into 300s. So because we could like barely get it back above this and then maybe fail one more time.
It would sweep them, right?
Yeah,
Because wouldn't you
yeah.
think like the
We could
amateurs
sweep.
have trades here?
Yeah.
Everyone has their take profit at recent highs.
Correct.
It's going to do something when it gets there.
Yeah.
Or even a little before,
Yeah.
maybe.
So then the greedy money is my bigger picture thesis idea, but I
Hold
have
it.
such a good entry on this. I'm like, I kind of want to hold it. Like, that's the thing too. I have the high R multiple for a reason because setups like this, I'm like, this looks fucking good. Like, why would I want to cut this short?
Well, I guess then the question is, would it still look good if this bar flips red?
it's this. I mean, the setup's not invalidated overall until we lose VWAP, in my opinion.
Setup's not invalidated until we lose VWAP. So even if this next bar flips red, you would still be like, yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, I mean, just let it
Okay.
trade.
Okay.
Let it trade. That's trading. You're gonna have red bars. You're gonna have.
Are y'all
red
hearing that?
lights.
Yeah, Randy.
Are you trading ES? Okay, yeah. So, because I was going to say, if it's NQ, you might want to 5x the parameters, right? So, okay, perfect. Yeah. So the thing is, so the 4.5 trail at 6.5 worth of price action or price movement, that's non-negotiable. Anything beyond that is at your discretion, right? They're in different stages of trading, right? So if you're on an eval, it's lock it the fuck down because like you have to hit a profit target, right? Or at least at most places, right? Same thing, sim funded. It's like, you're still trying to get somewhere. You're trying to get into live. So you maybe don't need to be as aggressive with your trails on a sim funded. And then on live, that's all on you, right? As you're building equity, like from when you're at ground zero, that $0 to $20,000 mark, I think you should still want to be aggressive, right? Because it's just add to the P&L every day, if at all possible. It's don't lose money first, add money second, right? But once you have some breathing room, you have your own cushion, you have enough equity in there, you could go ahead and let things kind of ride out a little bit more. But when you're in that passing eval or challenge or combine phase, trying to get rolled into live from sim funded, you should be, at least my opinion is, you should be a little bit more aggressive with your stops. So what you'll see a lot with me, because like when I got with Top 1 Futures, like I'm at ground zero with everybody else, right? I still obviously have my live account, but like I'm just like an average Joe now, like not necessarily in a challenge, but in that sim funded environment. So like everybody who's on my streams on a daily basis, like they see me, I'm like, the first thing is like just get to that 4.5 point trail, right? At that point, then I'm like, okay, if we can get to 9 points, I'll lock in 7.5. If we get to 12.5, I'll lock in 10, right? And then usually at 10, then at that point I let it rock, right? But like for me, there's zero excuse to let yourself be 10 points in the money on the ES, or let's call it 12 points. You shouldn't hit 12 points or more and not walk away with 10. That's just my honest opinion. Yeah, to me, the most important ones is 4.5 and 10.25, right? Because I got like OCD, so commissions and fees. Like I like 4-figure P&L. So 4.5 and then 10.25. After that, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Anthony? Yep. I'd be out right there.
Yeah,
The first red bar. So while Tanner's going to hold on here and hope we make some more money, I would have been out not at 330 where his max profit was on the rest of the contracts. I would have walked away with like 275. Each green bar from entry, look at the pin low. Here, Brian does it every 2 minutes. So let me just point because I can't do this. My hands. So you're in the trade. As structure is broken, the way Brian describes it, Anthony, here are previous lower highs. Here are previous lower highs. As we make higher highs on a short-term time frame above these lower highs, this move here, 2, 4, 6 minutes, is where Brian would start to trail the stop up. I know, Brian, it's going to probably be this candle to the pin. Or this candle here. And he won't do it every 2 minutes. It's every other 2 minutes. You wait for 2 2-minute bars is the way he describes it. So he would have been taken out right on this first red bar down at the pin low of the green bar to the left of it. Sorry if my hand's a little shaky. You see what I'm saying? Right there. That pin would take him out. So instead of like at the peak, I think, Tanner, on these contracts, you were up like $390. You were up like another $400. So Brian would say, okay, I could have, because it is his money, the way he describes it. It's $400 of unrealized gains. I'd rather walk away with, instead of 400, 290 than zero. Because that 290 compounded over the year, when you're a day trader and you have a lot of years like Brian does, he says, dude, it makes a drastic difference in your P&L. Not a small difference, a drastic difference. That's why I like what Isaac says a lot about the trails. If you're going to trail, I think you trail aggressively, and then you just be willing to take another trade. Isaac has 5 levels of trades that he can take. I have multiple ways to play a VWAP. A mid-range bounce, top of range, yesterday's VWAP, high of day VWAP. I got other plays. So give me the gains, especially for the new traders. To my comment yesterday about bandwidth, your bandwidth is growing. You've been trading for a while. Who here is less than 5 years into trading? Your bandwidth is less, right? When you talk about bandwidth, traders that are in a winning trade like this that are new and have low bandwidth, as soon as they see 2 minutes of red candle, they're going to start to panic. So bandwidth comes in. If you're working on building bandwidth, just realize the gains. Get yourself out. Then all of a sudden, the stress comes off of you, and then you either have to decide to walk away or take another trade. That's a much better place to be, I think, making a decision from, rather than like panicking mid-trade of like, maybe I should have cut it at the top. God damn it, I should have got out at the top. You know what I'm saying? Questions for Tanner, Joey, Isaac, keep going. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and like that, like that's why on this too. Of course, if it ends up tagging me out, you know, I'm like, how could I have trailed that? Should I have trailed that? But again, I'm really confident with my entry on this to the point where I'm like, and I just got to let it trade, because also that's why if you saw me pull up this, look where we pinned, right? This was my key level. This was my initial key level, 41,310. Of course we pinned there. So now, if this is going to continue and really dump, yeah, that's a possible scenario. So that's also why market structure is really important, because we extended, we bounced, we came back to the level and retest, we got the rejection candle, and so yeah, there's some follow through now, which doesn't look good, but you got to see how much it
But you're
actually
protected.
follows through.
You're protected.
Yeah.
And I look at this and I would say, if this continues through and you're not in it at all, you're going to be pissed.
Exactly.
So would you rather, what would make you more upset, Tanner? A break even or to miss the move?
To miss the move.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a great question to ask when you're really confident in your system. What would piss you off more? If I miss this trade or if I'm not in it and it goes?
Also, I think like I hate talking about the monetary value, but also I'm like, if I make $200 on a trade or $800 on a trade, it doesn't feel really any different to me personally.
Why don't you trade this bigger though? Why are you only at 10 micros on a 150K account?
Because I'm trading in front of 50 people and I just didn't want to go super big.
Okay.
Honestly.
But at home, what would the size have been?
No, honestly, at home, I'd probably go 15 to 20 micros on this. Because I took my initial loss, though, that's also why I wasn't as aggressive.
At what size?
Same thing, 10.
Okay.
So if I would have waited just a little bit longer and crushed this entry, I would have saw that initially. What was my stop on this initially? Right? It was
Down the pin.
I
Yep.
forget what it
Yep.
was. It was like one. It was like
It's about-
260.
yeah, a little bit closer
right?
to 300. Yep.
So I'm willing to risk 400 to 500 on the trade. So I probably would have gone double size in that sense, but I'm already down like 260 on the day before or whatever. So that's why I didn't size.
In a situation like that where you take that first loss, I find it difficult to trail the second trade. I'm quicker to just take profits on the second trade to come back and get the money back. Do you ever do that?
Not as often, no.
Okay,
I
explain
think,
why.
Yeah, I think a lot of the times.
Hold on,
like-
I'm sorry. Did you guys hear what I said? Everybody following that? Because I think a lot of us do that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time, like, building confidence in your trading comes from the conviction of watching it do what it should do, but also understanding the scenarios where, like, yeah, it could do this here, right? So that's why, like I said, when we pinned this right here initially, I'm like, okay, that doesn't surprise me. It's a retest of my level after what, like a 150-point move, 200-point move. Yeah, it's going to pin here. It's a little overextended. Let's see how we treat the pullback. And now I'm back in the driver's seat, right? We're back above the wick high of this. So now I'm cruising. So
But wait,
like,
real quick, back to my question. Would you ever close the second trade to recover the first loss? Or you're saying you never will do that? You treat them each as independent, and then you could be 2 red, 2 max loss, and rather than 1 red, 1 break even.
yeah, I treat them as independent because I don't want to think about the impact of the last trade. And I'm like, oh, I just want to fight. Because fighting to get back to green on the day is the killer of like your progress, of your mental capital too. Because that's when you go on tilt. How many times have you guys been on tilt where you're down 600 or like 1,000 on the day, and then you claw back and you're like, okay, cool, like I just need to make 200 more. Or like, oh, okay, well now I just need to make 400 more. And then you get back to that break even or whatever, and you're like, okay, now I can work again. I can keep going. But then you make another mistake and you're like, fuck, I'm down 300 again. And then it goes backwards. So I try to treat every single trade individually in that
great
sense.
advice.
And just manage the risk initially. So that's why, like I showed you guys, I took that small initial loss of 260. And I'm okay with that because I'm like, okay, if my next one works, it's going to be like this is over a 2 to 3 hour trade already, right? So it's like it made up for it.
Yeah, I'm the same way too. I don't like basing my current trades off previous trades. So if I take a red trade, I don't like to base my current trade off. I want to take the P&L or take the profit just to get back that red day because I feel like that's making me be a little more reactive to my previous trades versus focusing on what I'm doing in that exact moment. A good example was actually today. I had taken a couple trades earlier. I took some small paper cuts where I was taking maybe a $60 loss and then another like $80 loss. I was down about 200 before my last trade that I was long in previously, and had I treated that trade reactively from my others, I wouldn't be in the green right now.
Interesting.
Right? I would have been either break even or still slightly red, and so still focusing on the current trade that I was in, allowing it to go, following my plan of scaling in and out, allowed me to turn green on the day.
Great point.
And so one thing I want to emphasize here too is you hear a lot of different styles of trading. Up here you have all in, all out. You have trading. You have let the trade play out, trust the system. Everybody has their own trading personality, right? We all think differently. So I would encourage you to take what you're hearing here and see how it plugs in to your trading personality. If you find something interesting, like what Isaac does or what Austin does, find a way to tweak it to fit you and how you trade the best. Because at the end of the day, we're all individual traders. We all need to be an independent trader, right? And so if you just copy everybody or copy somebody to a T, you're not going to be that independent. You want to find a way to make things work for yourself.
Well said.
I just put an offer out for a few more contracts, and this is kind of how I look for like daily targets too. I am looking for that really big move, but I also just don't want to fucking sit here and watch it all day. So on the daily chart here, let me fix this. I love just looking for prior bar lows and highs, right? So as we are kind of cruising up here, the retest of this bar low, because we've already broken above all this structure here, is my next logical target. So I want to cover into here in case we reject and also come back down. You know, if you're a ICT fanboy.
Whoa. Can you go to the lower time frame real quick?
Yeah.
So the way I would manage it, just because this is a flush to a high. That is the easiest fucking money trade. People that trade with me know I am full out right now. Get me out. Because sellers are going to step in at this high. I'm not doing what he did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 5 minutes, 25 minutes of straight rise. I'm out. That's a flush. One of my mentors taught me when the market flushes, you take the money because it will often turn back around. There often will be people and algorithms that come in to take the other side of the trade. So to see this next bar start to come down, it's at equal highs. It's at the high of the day. There's definitely sell orders there.
You're
so
right.
I think, to leave this, to be up 375 and be willing to take all that. Yeah. Thank you. Because you're giving me an aneurysm. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, bro. The market on the seminar day on Spicy Friday gives you this 1, 2, 3, and you're like, I think I want more. I'm like, Tanner, we're trying to teach people not to be greedy, bro.
I know,
Jesus
you're
Christ.
Right. I'm just trying to show how I trade, bro.
I would have taken. No, I know, bro. I love it. I would have taken, and that's why we're all giving our different opinion. I would have taken half of your off, like 3 off there, and have 2 running. Because at that high, you know it's going to turn around. Don't do it just because I fucking told you.
I know. I'm about to take some off because
But you're going to be, because this is where, like, if it hits that high, when he has to come, this is important, everybody, so follow me. When he has to come back and do that markup, and he sees it hit the high, what's the first thing he's going to say to himself?
This does look like a good reversal here.
He's going to be like, oh my God, dude, how did I not take any off at the high? It was right there.
You're right. You are right on that for sure.
It's a flush.
Yeah.
David,
and now look at this. We're getting a big bearish engulfing bar. This is like the worst thing I would potentially want to see.
Think about how many pending sells were up there at the high of day. Yeah.
So
this is why we're doing this. It's a good lesson, right?
Yeah.
Everybody liking this?
Yeah.
Yes. Does anyone have? Well, they're on YM. Yeah, you don't have that. With YM, I'm pretty sure you actually need a different Bookmap subscription. Zach, can you confirm that? Yep, Steve said yep. Different Bookmap subscription for YM, right? Okay. Do you have Bookmap for YM pulled up, Zach? Okay, no worries. You're good. Questions? Yeah, Krista.
Yeah, I'm actually in a short right now, so I'm looking to see if we have a failed upside auction. So it's small size. Do I need a microphone?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the initial balance period is already closed, right? So we have the initial balance high is up basically at 700 even, big round psychological number. I know I have a little bit of a bullish sentiment, so I'm short just outside of the point of overextension. So I'm just basically banking on a retest of overextension. It's technically not one of my setups. It's just an execution based off of technicals.
AKA he wants to fade Tanner.
Not necessarily. Well,
A
he's trading
little
different
bit.
market
You saw
altogether.
that, right? A little bit.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever, bro.
But
Fuck it.
yeah,
I'm running the fade right now.
Fade him.
you're also
Fade
short.
him.
Oh, you're ready to? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it looks so. I like going bar by bar as well. It's like if this bar fully engulfs this, which it looks like it is, it's probably gonna have continuation, and they're probably gonna seek out liquidity and stop me. So it's like, yeah, I'm like right now, I'm like, okay, I'm probably gonna get fucked.
Well, can I be honest? When we were looking at it and it was beautiful, I'm like, damn, man, this couldn't have been any better. Friday on the seminar, Tanner's got a green trade up on the
I'm still
screen.
gonna be green overall. I
No,
don't
no,
care
no,
if
no.
it
I know. I'm
stops
not
me.
taking away from that at all. But I'm just like, man, if he just would have closed it right at the high, I probably would have had a boner on stage. I would have been so proud of you, bro. I would have
Yeah,
been like,
but if
holy
we- if
fuck,
we-
dude, that was amazing.
What if we break the highs here and keep going? It goes in my targets, and I'm just like, yeah,
I'll pay you another $20.
okay.
Yeah, hold on, Krista, and then
Don't
Thomas.
stop me. Don't stop me. Don't stop me.
Yeah. Yeah. You saw how we set the initial balance high right at 1026, right? We did break above, and I'm feeling like it was just a little short squeeze, right? A lot of people were looking to enter shorts just below a big round psychological number, 5,700, and we very quickly got right back underneath the initial balance. So we might still go and retest the initial balance high from below. If it acts as resistance, then the first order of business is going to get to that envelope, yesterday's session high, value, right, and then start reverting back to the mean. Yeah. However, when we pivoted off my screen, you could see that that sell-off that we had, it went down to the simple moving average on the 1 minute chart, which was also conveniently also the initial balance high from yesterday. And then, of course, going into the number, we skyrocketed it up.
And when it layers like that, is that
that
more
would have been a level 1 long. So that's selling. And again, it takes a certain set of balls to long when you're seeing the market go down like that. But you could see it went right down to the moving average, right down to basically initial balance high from yesterday. And then that's where it's turned around. And then it went, 35, 40 points up to that 5,700 level. So that level 1 long was good for about 35 points.
Let's do Lawrence and then Thomas, okay? Lawrence, good.
Who's that directed to?
Me?
Tanner? All right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at all of them for sure, but it kind of just depends, I guess. Like, I am comparing all of them to see what they're doing, because sometimes you will have divergences. The cool thing is when all the markets are in unison moving together, they all will push, algo-wise, buying programs, selling programs, whatever it is. So, but there are times where you'll notice. I actually have a video on my YouTube channel about this. I had a buddy named Chandler Horton do this webinar with me a little while ago, and he talked about rotation in the markets and how they influence each other. And it's really interesting because NQ is actually the king. I know everyone thinks ES is, but ES is actually heavily influenced by YM and NQ. So what you'll notice is if there is a divergence day, NQ, let's say, is strong, YM is weak, ES is chopping. And those days don't always happen too often, but that is money rotating in the markets. And so when they all are team push though, and they're all pushing together, it's just more conviction that everything is kind of moving in unison. So, and you'll notice this a lot too if you watch RTY, because this thing is just a piece of shit. And it
Not today. Look at it today, bro.
And it just never works that well.
Well,
but
that actually brings up a good point that I wanted to mention earlier. Who here actually could say confidently they understand U.S. indices? The 3 or 4 main ones. I know you can. You can. Anybody else? Does anyone want to take a guess at how indices are weighted? Okay. Does anyone know how an index is weighted? Say no if you don't know. Say yes if you know. Market cap, Michael. Market cap is how ES and NQ are weighted. Do you know how YM is weighted? Tanner, do you know how YM is weighted?
no,
Which is crazy. I should spank you, bro.
you should. I just look at candlesticks.
But this is important. I really think, you're a great trader. You always want to learn new things. Let me give you some sauce. This was new to me this year. I love when I have guys that go, I'm a really good gold trader. And I'm like, do you know anything about gold reserves or who's moving gold? No, I don't care about that. Okay. The Dow is weighted by the most expensive stock in the index. Does anyone know what that is? It's Goldman Sachs right now. So in YM, in the indice that he's trading, a lot of this movement can be driven by Goldman Sachs, Home Depot, United Healthcare. Who else is? Caterpillar. That's where he called it the boomer index, because back in the day, they used to track the Dow as the market. And as things have changed, now what is the market? Technology. Tech is the market. The Qs, the NASDAQ, that's what people really look at. So when I'm trading ES, I know I'm trading an index that is weighted by market cap. So if I look at the MAG 7, just like with NQ, I know those 7 stocks are 35 to 37% of why that thing is moving. Does that make sense? So I don't trade YM because I have no idea why Goldman might be doing something today. It is harder for me to get a read on it because the basket is spread wider. Does that make sense? Where it's much easier for me to get a read on the MAG 7. That is directly correlated to ES and NQ. Questions on this? Because I think this is pretty important. So at least you learned something new over the 2 days. YM is weighted by the most expensive stock. The next question you should ask is, does that change? Yes. Huh? It rotates every fucking week. Yes, absolutely. You know how much NVIDIA is in the NASDAQ? How much weight NVIDIA is in NASDAQ? About 9% right now, 8-point-something%. Do you know how much weight NVIDIA is in the Dow? Well, literally less than 2%. Because all these other stocks are priced more than NVIDIA. NVIDIA's $100 right now. What's Goldman's stock price? Can anybody just check real quick? GS. 800 something? Shouldn't take this long. Can someone give me a price on Goldman Sachs? I don't have my phone on me. 560? There you go. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, that is not what I mean at all. It is weighted more. It will pull the index more. The most expensive stock in the Dow will pull the index more than the second most expensive stock. No, just because of its price, which is silly. This is a silly conversation, if you ask me. An index should be weighted by market cap, like Michael Reese said. It doesn't make sense to weigh an index by the price of the stock. That is why I don't trade YM. We were looking at trading YM end of last year, and we stopped because we figured that out. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me because you can have Goldman be the top stock today, but by next week it could be 20th, depending on what happens. Oh, he's alive. He's alive.
I hear these guys next to me. Damn, I think I need to bail on this short.
So hold on, there were other questions. Yeah, Nick, and then Thomas. Yeah, sorry, Thomas. Go ahead, Nick. It's a great question. Absolutely. In YM, absolutely. It drops the stock price. Yeah. Which, again, makes no sense. How can you have NVIDIA be like 1% of the index when in the other index, it's literally almost 10? It's 10x the weight in the NASDAQ. So when you're trying to get a read on the indices, like this is why I don't trade the Russell. I don't even know if I can name 10 stocks in the Russell. You know what I'm saying? I don't know anything about why that index would move. So I'm not a fundamentalist, but you definitely should understand. Like, I don't have a college degree, and I can understand a little bit about these indices. You should understand a little bit about them. What are you going to say?
So with those aggressive short entries, I saw the same thing on ES coming off like my entry price would have been at 69,950. How quickly are you trailing the stop to either break even or in profit on those really aggressive sells, and or is your stop loss like immediately just at that high there?
So on Tradeovate, it's an auto trail. I have no say in the matter. As soon as it hits 6.5 points, it will automatically trail my stop to 4.5 points. I have no say in the matter. I went to go take a phone call. If it had gone, it would have done it for me, right? Project X, I need to manually do that, okay? Never break even. When you're talking to me, don't use those words. That's worse than the F word. Okay?
Come correct.
Never break even, because it's useless. Break even is completely useless. You either take an L or make some money. And for me, $300 negative or $300 positive is a flat day. That doesn't mean shit, right? Like, that was less than dinner last night, right? So it's 4.5 points, non-negotiable. And
Good
if you
question.
can do it automated, do it automated.
Yeah.
Well, we're still sitting in it.
We're
Jo-
still,
Joey's like,
yeah,
I'm
hey,
following
hey,
Isaac, bro. What do you mean?
We're still sitting in
I
it,
know,
Tanner.
I know. Whatever. It is what it is. I had my little high for a second.
Joey, did you do anything?
I am currently short right now, but I have not trailed just yet. My stop is still at the high on NQ.
Okay. Are you guys enjoying this, seeing the different perspectives? A little bit different than joining just Isaac's stream or just my stream? Yeah.
You want to give me HDMI? Just unplug the HDMI.
Pass the aux. Hold on. It's a great question. It's a great question. That
All
dude
right.
back there knows what he's doing.
So
Dude, you can blame them. That's the beauty of being here. If you lose money,
all right, cool. So I didn't get to show you guys the other thing. So the only thing that has me nervous about this particular short, well, a few things. Number one, it's counter trend, right? I talked about I had mostly bullish sentiment, right? Market's obviously going higher, right? But to me, right, there's a few things at play here, right? This to me wasn't a very strong extension of the previous highs pre-market and into the open. We extended the initial balance just a little bit. Like I said, once the initial balance was set, we very quickly got back inside of it, right? So like here, I'm looking to short, banking on this, making an attempt to get back into quantitative balance, right? Not be overextended, not be at quantitative extremes. So this line up here, that's the initial balance high. This line down here is the initial balance low. This line, I only do this on Project X because there is no auto trail. I like having a visual reference or a representation of when price gets here, I move my trail, right? So basically, if price comes down to this amber colored line, mustard colored line, which is now inside of the envelopes, right, then I would go ahead and grab my stop and drop it down to 4.5 points, right? But I don't do it until we hit this, because if not, I'm just going to choke the trade out.
great point. Did that answer your question? I know there was another question.
Yeah, if you guys are asking questions or you guys are talking,
No,
about
this is
you
great.
might see me actually like manually trail the stop.
Yeah, so you leave yours on for a second. Any other questions? We're going to go with this for like another 15 minutes, and then we'll take a break. That's totally fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Take the money.
All right, this is going to be good. Isaac, you go first. Tanner said take the
you
money.
know I'm really passionate about this. So I think that your payouts should be as infrequent as possible and as small as possible. I think ultimately the killer of accounts is poor money management, not even trade management. So you can be an excellent trader, but with really poor money management, account management, right? Like you can have a successful business, but if you manage the business poorly, it can fail, right? Red Lobster, right? It's just like you would think. It's a good business, right? It's cheap food, it's seafood, it's decent, right? Well, what happened, right? A couple bad decisions on like unlimited shrimp or whatever the hell they were doing, right? And then they're filing bankruptcy, right? That's just stupid. Like unlimited shrimp, like your customers are supposed to pay you for shrimp. We're gonna just give you as much, right? So like a bad business decision. So that money management, I think that the most should be 2 payouts a month. I pay myself once a month, right? And I think you should get to the point where you can pay yourself a fixed amount regardless of what your whatever your performance is for that month, right? Other people and I would go toe to toe with like CEOs of prop firms, and they're just like, pay yourself so you know the money's
Dude,
real.
wait a minute. You go toe to toe? No
do.
way.
I go toe to toe.
No. You're not known for that.
Yeah.
No.
So it's a long haul thing for me, right? Like I intend on having this account for a long time, being a trader for a long time. So like, what's the rush to take the money out?
What do you think of that answer?
So, okay, so let me chime in on that. So, I'm a big fan of leaving like an initial buffer. So it's like you never want to drain the account and just rinse them. That's for sure. I'm not a fan of that. So, for example, when I have clients who trade with Top Step and they're like, oh, I have a $2,000 drawdown and they're up $3K on the account, I'm like, oh, take $1K out. Pay yourself the $1K. So you're still used to that same $2,000 drawdown that you've been, you're used to, but at least now you put some money in your pocket and actually paid yourself. So I would never recommend taking out more than the initial drawdown they give you. Obviously, the bigger buffer you can build, it does make it a bit easier. Like I have an account right now with this other prop firm, which sucks, but it's up $20,000, and I'm like, okay, I have a huge buffer in it, so it is kind of cool, but like I know it would take me a lot of tilt to blow that. So.
Not impossible though.
Oh yeah, nothing's impossible.
Okay, Joey.
Yeah, I would definitely say find a good buffer amount in your account that you feel comfortable staying at and taking profits or taking payouts above that, right? Because you never want to, take a payout that takes, majority of your account down to, your drawdown limit or to where you're basically going to blow the account. Because if you think about it, how many accounts are you going to cycle back through again? How much money are you going to pay on new accounts to get you back to that payout, right?
100%.
So you want to make sure that you keep a good amount, like whether it's 10K, 20K, whatever you feel comfortable with, and only take above that amount. That way you protect yourself from recycling or going through more accounts.
Yeah.
No. So build it to 3K, take a K out, and keep the 2K. The minimum buffer always should be the minimum buffer. I would tell them just like it depends how low it goes, right? Like if I pulled out, if I drained an account and I have like $500 left in it, dude, I'm YOLOing on NFP, like to try to get it back up, or I'm gonna blow it. But I accept that because it's so low already, right? So if you already made that decision, you have to make that decision. And that kind of is the beauty of the prop space, is we do have the ability to. There's two ways to treat it, right? Some people do super aggressive, go through a lot of accounts and kind of take payouts like that, or they slowly build them, which the slowly building is definitely a better habit overall to do because you want to treat them like real accounts in that sense. So somewhere in the middle is like kind of how I like to do it, where, sometimes you're aggressive, but most of the time you're trying to be relatively safe. And when you do get above that initial buffer, excess you can pull out, but you still have that buffer, so you're still kind of trading with what you're used to.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a comment on this one as well, guys. I'm not the longest standing Top Step live account, but got paid out by Top Step yesterday. Let's go.
Flex.
I think it does come in different stages, right? And there's definitely two sides to this coin as far as building up an account that you're gonna hold on to for a long period of time, not put it at risk of loss because you're not pulling money out. And also on the other end, being a complete beginner, never pulling money out of an account, never taking a prop firm payout, becoming eligible, having an opportunity to, and then running it up and running it back down into the ground. And I've heard that story from my community and so many traders so many times. So I think for me, at least personally, what helped was paying myself, making it real, building that momentum, building that confidence, being able to reinvest, but do it within reason, right? Like the goal is just to make, a couple $100 and pull the payout right away. You're going to kill the account, and unless that's what you need to do to say, hey, I can get paid out and then build some momentum there, probably not the best, move. But the thought process is I wouldn't aim for 20K profit before you take a payout in your first funded account. That's just me, because I've just seen that story so many times where guys run it up, run it back down, and that frustration is often just tough to deal with. So I'd consider paying yourself within reason, build that momentum, and I'd also consider looking at that money as money you're going to reinvest back into your business, right? Not just going blowing it and having fun at the bar or whatever it is. So that's my 2 cents there.
Don't stop my fun.
That's really good too, because
Great advice.
we've all probably seen those horror stories on Twitter where I think there was one the other day. Some dude was really close to like $1 million payout with Apex, and he fucking blew it. He was like 4 days away,
That's crazy.
and it's like that. The amount of
Dude, you'd have to take a break from trading. Like you would need to disconnect for a
I'd
little
be
bit because that'll set you back
yelling at
mentally.
myself in my car, smashing my head against the wall. You fucking idiot! If it is your first payout, you got to feel it. Like, I do think that's important because that's a huge milestone, right? Like, getting your first payout, you got to feel that, like, tangibly. So I don't blame you for that.
Can I get a P&L update real quick? Anyone up over $500 on the day? Hell yeah. Anybody down over $500 on the day? Hell yeah. And even if you are and you didn't raise your hand, thanks.
So, Austin, touching on what we were just talking about, real quick, I want 3 people to tell me what is your longest losing day streak? How many days in a row do you remember losing?
Last year for me,
A
it was
week.
4.
So 5 days.
I had-
Anybody else? 8? Good. One more person. 6. Okay. So all less than 10, right? So think about this. 10-day losing streaks are a real thing, okay? So if your daily loss limit, right, is $2,500, because that's what mine is. If your daily loss limit is $2,500 and you were to lose 10 days in a row, how much money have you lost? $25,000. So to put things into perspective, that should be my buffer at all times. That's the maintenance balance on my account. That means I'm running fucking thin. I got 10 days in a row that I can lose money before I got to shut my business down. You start looking at it that way, and you have a very different perspective on what you should pay yourself and what you should maintain in that account. Right? Like,
We lost you there.
I got
you're good.
trailed, by the way.
sorry. Is it still on there?
Yeah, now this is, yeah.
Okay. No, I was looking at my equity balance.
No,
in
you're
my
good. What'd
live
you-
account,
Tanner, you said you're out?
22,000.
I got trailed, yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
And I think it's going to spring and go up now. Classic, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Can we get Tanner back on screen real quick just
Yeah.
to finish that? Yes, Lawrence.
Yes, sir. Loss expectancy, elaborate. I've gotten close. Most of the time, though, it's because I broke the rules of my system, right? So it's one of those tricky things. Like, you're going to lose, on average, 3 to 4 days out of 10 with my strategy. So you got to think about that, right? If you have a 10-day period and a 10-day period, right? And we're going to just actually say that the system's less profitable than what it is, like less successful than what it is. So if it's 60% win rate, that means 6 out of 10 days is winners, 4 out of 10 days are losers, right? So you have the first 10 trading days of the month. That's 2 weeks, right? 5 and 5, 10. And then the last 10 trading days of the month, which is the other 2 weeks. If you have 4 losing days at the tail end of that first 10 days, and then 4 losing days at the first front end of the next, that's 8 days in a row. Is the strategy doing poorly? No, technically it's still performing at its standard rate, right? 40% loss rate. But if it's 40% on this tail end here on the first half, and then 40% of the front end on the second half, that's 8 days in a row. And I've experienced that. But I've also been trading this exact system for about 7.5 years with very, very few changes.
Good question. Any other questions? Tanner,
Yeah.
when you look back at the trade now, do you think of this as like, I'm actually
I
asking.
think I shouldn't have fucking listened to you because I could have cut my stop here and now it would have been up.
I didn't tell you to trail it. I said don't do it. I told you, in fact, to get out at the highs like
I
an
know,
average
I know.
person.
No,
But it's an important question. Hold on. It's an important question, everybody, so follow me here. He hits a winning trade. He's now red to green on the day. Do you have another trade in your tool belt that allows you to participate? Or do you have to wait for the same setup that you already took? Or do you just call it?
So I'm glad you asked that because I can tell right now. I'm like, oh, this actually might go in the other way. Like, and I could feel like
I can see you
my temptation
in
to
your
wanna get
body
back
language
in.
even. I can see you want to get back in as he's
I
talking.
can feel like myself wanting to get back in, and I can feel one too many whiskeys last night telling me to do that as well.
Blame it on the
So I'm gonna do this, and you all should too, if you're done.
Hell yeah. We'll take
Oh.
that, buddy.
Go.
Good job. So, questions, last call. Beautiful. Give all 3 of them a round of applause, everybody. That's not easy to do.